Welcome to Rhodaria's Reciprocity Rating Rants. Remember, our goal with these videos is to provide information on who we are as a raid team, our philosophies, expectations, and experiences, as well as helpful rating information. Now, I know for some of you that this might be review, but please take the time to listen. Sometimes we don't even realize the things we forget. Today's episode covers the topics of raid expectations and preparations. Now, there's a lot of information in today's episode, so hang on tight and try to not get overwhelmed. Remember, if you need to, you can always pause, come back later, or take notes. I am a firm believer in Post-its. So, the first important expectation for raiding with us is that each player is allowed to have one main tune that they raid on. If you remember from episode 1, consistency is incredibly important to our success. Therefore, limiting each player to a main tune keeps the groups more consistent. Additionally, it helps with loot and provides the best spread of gear to have us be successful as a team. So, think about what tune and spec you really enjoy and won't mind sticking with for quite some time. This is not to say that we don't let people switch mains if they are really unhappy with their chosen main or really struggling with their character. What it does mean is that we strive to do what is best for the team as a whole, while simultaneously having people play tunes they enjoy and providing consistency for our raid groups. If you have questions about mains or main swapping, just give me a holler. As a side note, if people want to raid gear alts on their own time, you are more than welcome to, and keeping multiple tunes geared and ready can help us with some amount of raid flexibility. On to the second important expectation, and that is that you are the appropriate item level for the raid that you are signing up for. The required item level for each raid should be posted in the raid description on the in-game calendar. If the required item level feels far off from your current item level, fear not. There are always ways to get your gear level up, and guildies are always happy to help out. Okay, so now you've picked a main, and you've got the gear you need to raid, so what comes next? Well, you need to make sure that your character and your game are raid ready. Let's talk a bit more about what that entails. The first thing you want to do to get your game ready is to set up your UI. I totally do not care how you set it up, provided that it works for you. Here are a few helpful tips. Make sure that you can see the raid frames. Hey, this is super important. The raid frames are the little bars that show you raid members' health, and debuffs. You can use the default Blizzard ones, or you can find an add-on that does it. Often those add-ons allow you to move the raid frames around on the screen to make it more accessible for you. Next, you will want to make sure that you can actually see your character and their feet. It is really hard to get out of fire if you can't see the fire. Another helpful thing to do when starting raiding is to get some specific add-ons. We don't require add-ons per se, but they are super duper helpful, and a lot of times it can be the difference between playing successfully and not. I do highly recommend Deadly Boss Mods or Bigwigs. These add-ons provide cues for raids in terms of mechanics and important raid information. We also use the Deadly Boss Mods to do the pull timer. There are also sometimes add-ons specific to fights will be incredibly helpful. For example, in Hellfire Citadel on Iskar, we need to pass the Eye of Anzu around really rapidly. The add-on Iskar Assist makes this a million times easier. It's a nice compact bar with everybody's names, an icon for who has the eye and who needs the eye. The last thing I would suggest to make your game raid ready is checking the playability of your game in a raid setting. This means checking your lag and your FPS. Because of the number of us and the amount of stuff on the floor, etc., lag and FPS can be more of a problem in a raid than they would be out and about in the world. Now, if your computer struggles in raids, I suggest turning off all unnecessary add-ons before raiding and or lowering your graphics settings. If you need help with any of these, just let me know and we can point you in the right direction. That brings us to getting your character raid ready. You need to make sure that your character is gemmed and enchanted. There are usually gems and enchants in the guild bank, but if what you need isn't in there, we can most definitely find a crafter and make you the items you need. this should be located in the second from last tab in the guild bank. Next, you should make sure that you have your consumables for the raid. This includes personal buff food, which is located in the cooking tab of the guild bank. You will also need flasks and potions, which are located in the last tab of the guild bank. These should include the hour-long flasks for all of the specs, as well as the potions, and we also have health and mana potions in there as well. These items are usually in the guild bank, but we do not always have them stocked, so make sure you double check before the start of the raid that you have everything you need. Lastly, you want to make sure you have done some research on the bosses we will be fighting. There are a bunch of good resources to learn more about these fights. There is the in-game journal, as well as written instructions and videos out of game as well. You don't necessarily need to know the fight inside and out, but having a general sense of how a fight flows and the important mechanics can be helpful in processing the information and instructions I give before each fight. That's it! Now you're ready to show up and ready to focus and raid with us. Thanks for listening to Raid Expectations and Preparations. Don't forget to tune in for the next episode inside a Reciprocity raid.